Good evening and welcome to Slam the Gavel, the show that tells it all regarding family court, other court issues, as well as CPS. I am your host, Marianne Petrie. Bradley's mother, Narcisse Golan, passed away 3 months ago. He is autistic and needs structured routine and therapies he receives for his autism 6 days a week. However, Italy just entrusted Bradley to the Italian social services. If he is ruled to go back to Italy, he will face the next 3 to 4 years in the Italian foster care system, where he can't speak or understand the language. He will be taken away from the only family he has ever known. Please call Governor Hochul at 518-474-8390. Hashtag keep Bradley safe and voice your concerns of wanting him to stay here in the United States. That phone number again is 518-474-8390. I do have return guests. I have Patriot Mom and Dad back on. They were last on October 25th, 2022, Season 3, Episode 140, where they spoke about fraud upon the court and typical Texas fear tactics. And I welcome you back, Patriot Mom and Dad. And where are you at with your case at present time?
Well, thank you for having us back, Marianne. It's not good. In fact, it's actually gotten a lot worse. It's funny that our last time on the podcast was October 25th, because that's also the same date that my mother placed false allegations against my in-laws. She got Missouri CPS involved and filed false reports on my in-laws when my in-laws haven't seen our children in almost 4 years now. And then, I got so frustrated and so tired of her abuse against my children, against us. And I just decided that I was going to file an abuse report on her of all the abuse that she had put me through as a child or that she enabled. And also what I did that because I wanted CPS to understand why I believe and know basically how our children are being abused.
Mhm.
And I don't know if any other listeners will agree with me on this, but if there are any other listeners who have abusive parents themselves who are actually involved via being a caregiver of their children after the state got involved, what I hate is when this specific question is asked is, why would your mother do that? There is no answer to that question. There is no answer to why do people abuse? There is no answer for that. There is no reason to abuse a human being ever.
Mhm.
And so to ask somebody, why would your mother do that? That's kind of putting you in a position where you're sort of forced to say, I don't know. The real questions are, how could you do that? And what is wrong with you? Those are the real questions that should be asked. So the other thing that I have learned throughout all of this is emotional abuse and physical abuse are two very different beasts.
Mhm.
Physical abuse is very easy to describe, it's easy to explain, but emotional abuse is very hard to explain, especially when you're being abused by a narcissist and it's been going on your entire life, because everybody in society today, it seems like everybody has a different opinion on what abuse is and what isn't. And the best way that I have come to realize what abuse actually is you can kind of relate it to grief. Everybody processes grief differently, and everybody processes trauma differently. And if you tell somebody what somebody said and it really affected you mentally, or something they did, to them it may not have bothered them. They may have just looked at it like, whatever, go screw yourself or whatever. But then there are those of us who really absorb those kinds of behaviors and verbal attacks like a sponge, and they literally affect our brain, because years and years and years of gaslighting and somebody having to have an egregious amount of control of your life, you start to not trust your own self. You start to not trust your ability to make your own decisions, and you start learning to rely on your abuser, not just for approval, but you start relying on your abuser because you don't know what to do. So you go to your abuser because supposedly they're the ones that always had the right answer.
Well, I describe it myself as a dependency under fear.
Yeah, that's true too.
Because you're afraid of your abuser abusing you further, because you're being abused. You just don't realize it. It's a little difficult to explain because it's such a deep feeling. But that's where Stockholm's comes in. You get that fear to the point where you depend on the abuser.
And like the coercive control aspect.
Yes.
Yeah, that's where they control the victim.
But then what makes it even worse, Marianne, is that no one listens to the victim. They further criminalize the victim, and then the abuser plays the victim, and they get the sympathies of the courts and the department and the quote unquote experts who aren't really experts, but the abuser gets the attention and the help that's needed, while the victim is the bad guy, if that makes any sense.
Oh, yes, it does. Yes, I completely understand that dynamic.
Well, yes. I mean, we'll take a page out of my book, for instance. Since I'm the victim of all of this garbage,
Targeting and stuff.
I can already say honestly that I am targeted by the county court system. Why? Well, they're not doing investigations completely. What I mean by that is they'll ask a few questions, and then such as my first arrest. Best example, my first arrest. We went down, met with a detective. He asked us his questions. I wrote a statement. He called me a week or two later and said, well, I got 2 statements against your 1. He never contacted our witnesses, nothing. That's not a complete investigation. You can't justify anything off of one side compared to the alleged perpetrator.
Especially when that one side has motive against you and has such a strong and unbridled hatred against you.
Especially when, as a law enforcement officer, you tell the alleged perpetrator who's talking to you and verifying everything for you before you can even read it, and you tell him you believe him
or her.
It prompts a deeper investigation. You need to figure out, okay, why is he so open with me? Why is he so fluid in confirming everything that I have in front of me before I even read it
or ask
or even ask? But yet I have these 2 other statements against him. I mean, still innocent until proven guilty. You need to go down and make sure in your gut that he is actually guilty.
Well, not only that, but if you're only taking, I mean, first of all, it's obvious that in our case, you had the department, my mother, and the CASA and the kids ad litem attorney. They were all colluding with one another, and so of course their stories are going to match. And I mean, I have a prime example of that. I had a visitation with my daughter. I was forced to go by myself to the DFPS office to do a meeting with my child. And after the meeting with my child, the caseworker said, do you want me to call your mom? I'm going to call your mom. And when she called my mom, well, first I have to backtrack because this is important too. She had the kid's therapist who testified. We later found out during the trial that the kid's therapist was actually not a therapist. She was an intern under supervision. And the caseworker, she told the caseworker, I recorded. And the caseworker said, "Oh, you recorded?" And she said, "That's great because you can testify and then I can testify." And then she said my name and then she said, "And blank, you will testify." So then after she said that to me, then she got off the phone with the intern and called my mom. She said, "Do you want me to call your mom? I can call your mom. I'm going to call your mom." So she called my mom and my mom said, "You could move back here. There are so many much better guys out there for you and you could get your job back. And I just want you to move back so I can be your mom again."
Oh,
So I'm just like, what? I'm an adult. I don't need you to, you're not raising me anymore. I don't need your interference. I don't need your input. I don't need your control. And what's funny is whenever I would try to call her on what she was doing to try to have a grown-up conversation and address, have a discussion and address what I saw as an issue, I would say, "You're causing a lot of contention in my marriage. You're trying so hard to control everything." I mean, she had to have control of my bank account. She had to have a key to my house. She came in and she snooped throughout our house one time while we weren't there. I mean, she had to have this excessive control of my life.
mhm.
She also had access to the bank account, and when I changed the password, somehow she got the bank account information yet again and tried to separate my wife and I.
Yes, she has worked tirelessly to try to separate us. My thing is, DFPS has done their damnedest to make him look like an absolute monster, circumventing evidence that proved his innocence, getting him rearrested, a week ago. And, all because my mother files these reports. Well, the problem is she filed what got him arrested is she filed a report with the Missouri police, and they circumvented the first two forensic interviews that proved his innocence and went to another judge, and this time got him arrested for charges he was already proven innocent of. And you know she's doing everything she possibly can to destroy our family and to destroy my husband and
Mhm.
our children. She's completely isolated our children from everybody we know. My best friend of 30 years, my in-laws reported abuse that they had witnessed, and
Mhm.
that's what you're supposed to do. You're required by law to report abuse of any kind that you're seeing. It doesn't matter what kind of abuse it is, child, elder, animal, you're required by law to report it.
Mhm.
So they did, and my mother just retaliated against them. My in-laws haven't seen the kids since November 3rd of 2019.
Yeah.
And did you want to get on real quick?
Yeah.
Okay, 1 second, Marianne. I'm going to mute it for a second.
Okay.
Okay, I'm handing the phone over to Patriot Dad.
All right. Hello, all.
Hello.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, yes, and I'm so sorry you are being put through this. And I was going to ask you, how many false reports has she filed against you?
Uh, to this date, we don't exactly know the exact number, but we do know at least of three major ones, and they're all sexual in nature.
Mhm.
It started out, I'm not going to go into detail, but it started out with one report of my eldest daughter saying that I did specific things to her in our old town of Las Vegas.
Mhm.
Then, when that wasn't working, and she figured out that we were going to show a video of our younger daughter stating that the sexual abuse happened here in Texas, then she started working on getting the younger daughter in on those allegations as well. And even she went specific, but much, how I would describe it, darker, much more involved details. And I'm not even afraid of those because you can't prove them. There was no medical evaluation, no checks of any kind. So, and we can prove against it, but I wasn't even made aware of my younger daughter's allegations until after, like, actually just last year, in around August or September is when I found out, and it blew my mind. And I said, how come I never heard about this? It was only supposed to be 2 charges, 3rd-degree physical injury to a child. And I knew they were already going to throw that on me, so I wasn't really too afraid of it. But after finding out about these new allegations with our younger daughter, I went until last week believing that, hey, they're confused about where these supposed sexual acts happened. They never did, but they're trying to figure out where. And even my private investigator said, look, I don't think they're even going to charge you because they can't figure it out, that my mother-in-law has muddied the water so bad that they probably won't be able to charge me. Well, last week I found otherwise.
Yes.
And I found out in the worst possible fashion.
Yes, you did.
I go to the gym. That's my therapy. Amongst, the mental health help that I get from a therapist. But that's my personal therapy. And I was on my way to the gym. I was drinking my pre-workout out on the way, getting juiced with 420 milligrams of caffeine, the normal beta alanine and citrulline, just to get that pump. Well, as soon as I get like maybe 100, 200 feet away from the turn-in for the gym here, I get lit up by a traffic cop. I pull over, such as the courteous thing to do, and park my truck, roll down the window, put my hands on the steering wheel, as we're all taught, because you don't want to make the cops' day any harder, because it'll make your life even harder. Well, I look in my side view mirror, I see him getting out, and all of a sudden I see 3 or 4 other black SUVs coming around and 2 guys getting out in full on plate carrier gears, like they're ready to rock. And I'm looking around and I'm counting these guys. I was surrounded by 16, not police, but U.S. Marshals. And they came up, confirmed my name. I said, yes, sir. They said, turn the truck off. And they said, do you have your ID? I said, yeah, I'll get it. They said, they pulled me out of the truck. And I asked them, hey, why am I being arrested? Because I haven't heard anything, not from my attorney, not from my bondsman. And they said, you are being placed under arrest for 1st-degree aggravated sexual assault of a child. And right there, I lost it. I said, what the hell? I said, I've been here the entire time. I said, I have not left Waco. I haven't seen my children in over 3 years, almost 4. I said, how did this come about? They didn't give me any details. They just said, there's a warrant for your arrest. We got to take you in.
And what you're saying?
Sure.
I'm going to hand the phone right back to him, but I wanted to add something. It's obvious that they have been following him because our truck is not registered or insured yet. And it's not registered to our names or insured just yet. So it's obvious that they've been following him because they knew exactly whose truck it was. Like total gang stalking and fear tactics and when you're trying to reach out for help and you're trying to tell them, hey, we've got all this stuff, but no one cares, no one's listening, no one wants to hear it because they just want you to play the game.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's it in a nutshell. If they can't give you any details of the charge, they can't give you the name of the person who made the allegations or anything like that, it's bogus, completely
Yes.
bogus. Well, I ended up spending the night in jail. I
Mm.
almost had a heart attack in there
I
because they
believe it.
picked me up when I was already hyped up on that caffeine from my pre-workout. And then to surround me and completely catch me off guard.
Oh.
I mean, that threw me through a loop, to say it nicely.
Mm-hmm.
Well, spent the night in jail, I didn't even have a problem with the inmates in there. Actually, to be 100% honest, the inmates treated me better than two of the guards did.
Same.
And that is ridiculous. I mean, I saw the judge the next morning at about 11 a.m. via a laptop outside of my cell. And after that, they said, okay, your bond's $50,000. And sorry.
I keep getting a call. I'm sorry. Don't know who it is.
Yeah, getting a random call. But after they set my bond and asked me if I had an attorney and all that other fun stuff, they said they would give me a call. I never got that call. I asserted my Eighth Amendment right then and there. About two hours later, it was like 2 in the afternoon when I started saying, okay, this is BS. This is cruel and unusual punishment. I deserve my call to be able to have the chance to bond out. You're holding me against my will at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And this redheaded female guard asked me, what do you want? I said, I want my phone call. And she said, you'll get it. I'll remind him. I said, this is cruel and unusual punishment. And she turned around and said, shut up.
Typical guard.
Yeah, typical guard. And honestly, me being a person who's on the other side of that fence, you need to treat these inmates almost like psychiatric patients. You don't want to set them off.
Right.
You don't want to set them off. I mean, while I was waiting to either bond out or get my phone call to bond out, the guy across from me, I felt bad for him. He tried to commit suicide in his cell. They had to raid his cell in riot gear. And they sprayed him with, I don't know what this stuff was, but it was like a pepper spray gel. And it's not designed to burn your eyes, but it's designed to burn your skin. And it blew my mind. And that also wasted time for my phone call.
Mm-hmm.
But lo and behold, about 3:30, 3:40, I'm talking with the therapist because he wanted to make sure I was safe. I was placed on suicide watch that entire time.
Mm-hmm.
I had a suicide vest and nothing else under it. And I was kept like that since 1:30 the day prior. So we're looking over 24 hours. I was basically naked.
Mm-hmm.
And no toilet paper to wipe my ass. So needless to say, I didn't hit the restroom at all in like a day. But yeah, it took me until after I was bonded out and about midnight that night. So we're looking at Thursday morning. I look myself up on Google and I see a article there. And something about the article stood out to me. It said that there was an arrest warrant, and I have to take this as fact because, I mean, it sounded too good to be false. But they said, per an arrest warrant of an outcry, a young girl, the age of 11, at the time of the alleged offense. Wait a minute. If we look into that, 11 at the time of the alleged offense. Wait a minute. Our eldest daughter's 11 now, and I haven't seen him in 3 years. That tells me my daughter is being abused. I don't know how. I'm not even going to try to speculate because it'll get me on edge. But my eldest daughter is being abused in the home she is in right now. But yet I'm the one being arrested and incarcerated. Doesn't matter if it's for a day or months. I'm the one paying the price for someone else.
Oh my God, I'm sorry.
It happens. This is what happens in Texas to families they deem as a threat.
Especially dads.
It's,
they are horrible to dads.
Yes, especially fathers. Because when you let them know, you know your stuff, you know your laws, you know your rights and all that fun stuff, and you assert them.
They come after you harder.
They come after you even harder. They look and twist and you name it, they'll do it. And Patriot Mom wants to say something.
Okay.
Marianne, I wanted to tell the Slam the Gavel community that there are many facets to this. One of the things that I believe is they're targeting my husband because of the fact that we filed a federal mass tort lawsuit against the county. And of course the county knows about it, but they defaulted, meaning they did not respond to the federal mass tort lawsuit. Neither did the DFPS commissioner, Jamie Masters, and neither did the lieutenant governor. The only people who responded was the attorney general and the governor. And the attorney general and the governor both say that they do not have any oversight over DFPS. But if that's true, then how is it that the governor is the only one who can appoint and terminate the commissioner? 2 or 3 days after they were served, and all three of them were on the suit. 2 or 3 days after they were served, in an after hours meeting, which I will send you the article. It's a Texas Tribune article. In an after hours secret meeting, he terminated the commissioner. And the governor terminated the commissioner. And then there's articles where the commissioner admitted that she has been failing the children of Texas, which I will send you those articles as well.
And I'll put them in the podcast notes.
Yeah, but if you look into the Bastrop County issue, you look into the Houston issue where the caseworker told this girl to hoe herself out.
Right.
Verbatim.
That's Fox 26, by the way, folks.
Yes. If you really look into that, you'll see there was a court case and then nothing.
Exactly.
It's because these people cover up their tracks. They know when they get caught, it can be the end of them.
Well, and you know, we're not the only Texans who have gone through this egregious abuse on the part of the state and our counties. We're not the only people and families who have suffered from this. There have been parents who have been murdered at custody exchanges. I don't know if you heard about the Chad Reed case on November 5th of 2021. But Chad Reed was going to go pick up his child for his visitation. It was his time. He was unarmed. He was no threat to the homeowner. The only thing that I saw in the video that I watched that was recorded by his brand new wife is that Chad just got up in his face, and Chad made it a point to stand up for his visitation with his child. Like, don't get in my way. If it's my time with my child, it's my time.
Mhm.
Well, the person who shot him, Kyle Carruth,
Mhm.
he claimed self-defense. But Marianne, how can it be self-defense when one takes 10 steps back, takes the time to aim, and shoots somebody in the head? How, with a 12 gauge shotgun? How is that self-defense? And then upon doing a little bit more research on this case, I found out that Kyle Carruth's ex-wife is a judge.
And he got away with murder.
And he got away with murder. And I have seen several things that have been posted on Facebook about, with him communicating, writing messages and posts and everything like that, sort of, arguing with the victim, the survivor, which is his wife, which is Chad's wife. And I have to give her as much respect as I possibly can, because she is an incredibly strong person. She's a beautiful person. But if I am correct, now please don't quote me on this, because I don't know if I'm 100% accurate on this, but if I heard it correctly, instead of the police questioning Kyle Carruth, they took Chad's wife and questioned her. And she's the one who got the video, and this man is walking around scot-free. There was another father who had 3 children, and he was murdered at a custody exchange. There was a mother here who was supposed to appear in court the same day her ex-husband broke into her house while their children were sleeping upstairs and shot her 4 times. And no one is doing anything about it. Dads are being murdered. Moms are being, shot. I didn't hear if the mother who was shot by her ex-husband survived or not. I pray that she did, because I haven't heard anything about that. But one of the judges who is being looked at and reported on, her name is Barbara Stalder. This mother who was supposed to appear in court with a different judge, she actually saw Barbara Stalder to try to get an extension on her protective order, and Stalder denied her protection, or denied the extension on her protection order. And these judges, they all get away with everything that they're putting children and families and parents through, and nobody does anything. And our legislators like to say there's nothing they can do, but we have the Texas Constitution, Article 15, which talks about how the Senate and the Congress people can get involved when the judicial branch oversteps. But yet nobody does, and it just seems like no one wants to get their hands dirty, because this is a very scary thing. And so in a way, my heart says I can kind of understand why they don't want to get involved. Because they have their own too. They have their own families, they have their own children. So, I mean, it's not like I'm siding with them, but I understand. I understand why, in a way, they don't want to get their hands dirty. But the other side of me says, there are so many of you. And if you all rally together around the families and the children to truly protect us, there isn't anything they can do to harm you or to harm us anymore. But it takes all of us rallying together and working together to stop this,
Well, and granted, I'm getting this off of a t-shirt, and please forgive me for that. But this really rings true. For anything to get done, it takes the community. And the saying is, now hear this. We are many, they are few. To fear death is a choice. They can't hang us all. That's true, because if the community, the people, and that's how the Constitution was made. We, the people, they are our servants, not us being theirs. If people would just stand up, make their voices heard, and let it ring out, all this would stop. The courts would probably be better. I'm not going to give them too much credit because I haven't seen anything worth credit for them. But they may actually turn around and start doing what their jobs outline. Because, I mean, just the fact that, for instance, my attorney lied to the judge saying that I refused to view the evidence. And I told him there was a reason why I only spoke to him in email. And I have 26 emails showing that I was begging and pleading to view the evidence in my physical abuse case. And I haven't seen it. But for him to turn around, lie to the judge, and the judge to say, okay, you could go pro se if you want, but you only have 2 weeks till trial. That's an unfair trial. My attorney allowed that judge to violate my rights for 2.5 years. And now we're on our 7th reset. My new trial date's June 12th. And in Texas, there is a limitation to when you can hold a trial from the time of the indictment. It's 3 years. Well, I was indicted June 13th of 2020. 3 years later.
April 9th, Will.
No, that was when I was arrested.
Oh.
I was indicted June 13th. Well, June 12th, that's kind of cutting it a little short.
Yeah.
But if I am correct, I may be able to move for the vacate of the case on June 13th and let them know, hey, look, yeah, we chose the jury. We haven't started the trial. This is unconstitutional. This is not a speedy trial. And everyone needs to understand that.
Well, and also we assume that your attorney has waived your right to a speedy trial without your consent.
Well, yes. And you need to make, if you ever get arrested, you need to make sure your attorney does not waive that right for you. You need to make sure you have that conversation and let him know. I do not consent, and that's what the proper word for it. I do not consent to waive my right to a speedy trial. And if your attorney still motions for an extension, motions for a reset, he is waiving your right to that. And I didn't know that until recently.
Yeah, it's terrible how we find these things out later, like years later.
Yeah, when it really matters at the beginning.
Right.
I kid you not, if I would have known half of what I know now, I probably would be walking free with no charges on me.
Can I say one thing? Yeah. Marianne, if it's okay, I would like to address the people. Not too long ago, there was something on Facebook. Somebody said, how many opportunities do you have to terminate your attorney? If you want to know the truth, you have one. You have one, because once that attorney shows that he is misrepresenting you, does not, and I hate this term, so everyone forgive me for using it, but if they show misrepresentation, if they show that they are not in support of your best interest, that is your one opportunity to fire them. If they misrepresent you another time, and another time, they have already prejudiced the case against you. So if your attorney is not properly representing you and they have messed up once, you terminate them, period. You drop them immediately. I know that for some of us, it is difficult because we are in a position where we can't afford, a powerhouse attorney and things, which I would like to bring up to you, to everyone, and I hope that when they hear this, they write this down, but there is a legal professional group that they are fantastic, as a matter of fact. The name of the group is the National Legal Professional Associates. And what they do is they come in and they look at the entire case from day one. If there's a note on a bar napkin, they want it.
Mhm.
Also, my husband and I haven't even made our first payment yet, and they're already looking into things. The owner, the co-founder of this group, is incredibly attentive. Like throughout this whole case, I've never had that. I've never had an immediate response to any of my emails from anyone that has gone to try to help. I've never had an immediate phone call. I've never had somebody interested in knowing what our wants are out of this, and to actually listen to what we are saying. So, but my advocate, who has a bachelor's in social work and is a family justice advocate, she's the one who found it. And they wanted a proposal from her, and she wrote a proposal, and they have decided that they want to help every single family who comes to them. And which I will send you the link to them also, Marianne, so that your listeners can have that information. But it would be awesome if everybody who is listening and in need of help goes to the website and looks at what they have done.
But also, please be patient, because with all the parents out there, even in our federal case, our federal attorney got overwhelmed. So please be patient. If they turn you down at the time you call and tell you, look, we're inundated, give it some time. It's not a definite no. It's just, these cases do take time. They do have a team that investigates every aspect of your case. They will even find stuff you don't even know about.
Yes.
And I mean, even in our advocate's case, she's got 4 cases, and there were things out of North Carolina that they found that she didn't even know about. And they're saying they can get her husband home. He's been sentenced to 120 years. And they said he got cheated.
Yeah, and he's a Navy vet.
They said they can get her daughters home, and she's got 4 of them, and get her brother out of jail too.
Both her brother and her husband were falsely accused, just like my husband.
And their case was tied together.
And also the only difference between our case and her husband's case is the fact that her husband is a Navy vet. That's the only difference.
And county.
Oh, and the county, yes. But also, I have found that CPS, first of all, everybody knows that CPS they do not discriminate. It doesn't matter what your title is. It doesn't matter if you have friends in high and low places. It doesn't matter where you've been, what your resume says. None of that matters. But the thing is, it seems that they have a proclivity of attacking our vets and federal employees. I was a behavioral detection officer with the Department of Homeland Security. And hang on, I keep getting this call. I'll have to call them back. I keep getting this weird call. I don't know who it is. There's caller ID. Did you want to call it and see who it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll do that.
Okay. So anyway, but they do attack our vets, and especially here in Texas. HB 19, House Bill 19. I think I've made mention of it before during one of our podcasts, but it is very damning to our vets. Before it was revised, essentially it said that our veterans are higher risk of family violence. That's discrimination against our vets. And you can ask anybody how passionate I am about our vets. Don't mess with our vets, because it's because of them that we even have any. It's because of them that these judges have the right to slam these gavels. It's because of them that these attorneys even have a job.
Mm-hmm.
It's because of them that we still have a right to jury trials. It's because of them putting their lives on the line every damn day. And then they come home to be treated worse than they were overseas. That is absolutely unacceptable to me,
Mm-hmm.
especially because my papa was I don't know who that is. Okay, my papa is a World War II veteran. He was with the Army, and I know what my papa went through. He told me some of his war stories, and my aunt wrote a short biography for him, so I was able to see some of the things that he went through. And anyway, it's just
Mm-hmm. Not fair.
It's just unfair. I hate the way our veterans are treated.
Mm-hmm.
I hate the way dads are treated. I hate the way children are treated. I hate that in the eyes of CPS, our children are only worth a trash bag. They're
Right.
given a trash bag to put whatever they can in there in 10 minutes. You want them to pack their life in a trash bag. I mean,
Yeah, it's disgusting. It's literally disgusting.
well, and part of the reason we've done so many podcasts is because this isn't just about myself, my husband, and our children. If we don't do these podcasts and share this information, we're not doing anything to help other families and other children. And I don't ever want to see another family go through what we have gone through.
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely heartbreaking to me. It is so heartbreaking. And that's part of the reason I wanted to organize that march, was to bring us all together, because regardless of what anybody, whether they want to admit it or not, we are a family.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We are all united because the children are our ties to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're not a voice for our children, there is no voice for them. So we all have to speak up. We can't be afraid of retaliation, because the truth is, yeah, they're gonna retaliate. Period. Just go into it knowing they're gonna retaliate.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes it a lot easier. It makes it to where you don't, it makes it to where your, given F word bank is overdrawn,
Yeah.
and you don't have any more F's to give.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to be strong for your children, because your children can't be strong right now. They can't consent. They don't know what's happening to them. They don't know that it's wrong. All they know is that there are adults involved, and they have learned that they have to do what adults say. So they can't say, no, this is wrong. I know that I have rights. They don't know any of that stuff. So they need us to defend them and protect them. But if you're happily married and someone is attacking maliciously your spouse, whether it's your husband or your wife, if you need to also do your part to stand up for your spouse, you really do, because when your spouse is the target, they literally feel 100% alone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they have to know that they have your support. If you have a good relationship with your spouse, and you're seeing the effect and the toll that it's having on them, we all have to do our part for them too, because I just think that it is so important.
It is. Oh, yes. I'm so glad I had you both on.
Us too.
I mean, how can people reach you if they have any questions?
I can give you my email. I'm just going to be 100% raw with everybody.
Mhm.
When my husband was in jail, on Tuesday night, it was one of those traumatic situations where you kind of feel like you're in a dream, kind of like in a haze, and you don't know if this is really happening or not. Well, the next day is when it really hit me, and the gravity of what they were doing to him and our children, and it really hit me.
Mhm.
And all I can say is my husband is the only reason I'm still here.
Mm-hmm.
Had he not been home, or had he gone to the gym to decompress like he normally does, I wouldn't be here, Marianne.
Mm-hmm.
And there comes a point where, I mean, I've had a lifetime of abuse, my whole childhood into my adulthood continuing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I suffered a lot with self stuff. And but I have trained myself, because I feel like that inner child in me is begging to be rescued, and we just don't know how to do that yet.
Mm-hmm.
So I still suffer with those really dark, depressive things. I've trained myself to call somebody, get on the phone and call somebody you trust. Call the suicide prevention hotline. Call somebody when you feel that down in the dumps,
Mm-hmm.
and you feel like there's no way out. You've got to call somebody and talk.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that night, I'm so grateful that my husband was here, because I was in such a dark place. I didn't want to pick up my phone.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to talk to anybody.
Yeah, people don't realize how bad this is when false allegations are placed on someone, and it just all snowballs, and this gets out of hand. And this is
It
what this
does.
does to families and spouses and kids.
Yes. It tears up. It's designed to tear the family apart. It is designed for your failure.
Mm-hmm.
It is designed for you to lose your children. It is designed for you to have no rights, for them to completely abolish all of your rights.
Mm-hmm.
One of the ways they do that is keeping you silent in court.
Yes.
We were not allowed to speak throughout the entire civil case until the very last day of the entire case, which was August 3rd of 2020. That was the only time we were allowed to speak. But at that point, it was only 5 hours to give our own testimony, to have our witnesses testify, show evidence, etc., etc. It was too little too late. By then, the FPS had done, and their cohorts had done enough damage to where there was no way that we were going to, there was no way we were going to get our kids back. And it didn't matter how much evidence that we had. It didn't matter that we had a video of our child saying they were sexually assaulted in the foster home, and the judge failed our children twice. She had 2 opportunities to order an investigation on that foster home. April 15th, 2020, I testified to the video verbatim. She called an emergency bench conference with the attorneys, and my attorney contacted me back and said the judge said she believes the mother because she knows that happens in the foster home all the time. And then on August 3rd, my husband's attorney questioned me. I recited the entire video verbatim under oath, and then he showed the video, and that had no bearing on the judge's decision. That's how you know that this is a child trafficking industry. Is if, the people who have caused harm to your family and caused your children to be sexually assaulted in the foster home, and the judge still sides with that party, that's how you know this is a child trafficking industry. And I don't know, I'm going to cut this a little bit short on myself, because I know that I tend to go on a tangent and stuff. But the other thing too is that we have been told that our son was ruled out twice, meaning there was absolutely no abuse, no concerns, nothing. Well, from everything we have read, it's federal law that a judge return a child who's been ruled out. If the child has been ruled out, what point does the state have in keeping them? She never returned him. In fact, she adopted him out to the same abuser who is accusing my husband.
Oh, I'm so sorry. This is,
I mean, it just keeps getting worse and worse. And I literally feel like nobody cares. I tried to report because Austin PD dropped the ball the first time I reported it. So I reported it again. And I got in contact with one of our officers here, and I was talking to him about it.
Mhm.
And, I just told him flat out, nobody cares.
Mm-mm.
People are going to pretend to listen. I said, nobody cares about justice for our children. Nobody cares about justice for us,
Mm-mm.
And I mean, we have reached out so many times, Marianne, almost every day for 4 years. I've been
Mm.
on the phone with people.
You literally have been trying to get things going and getting people to listen to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But, if anyone has any questions on maybe how they can help, get people to listen, what email do you want me to use? Or do you want them to come through me?
I would prefer it if they came through you, and it's
Okay.
not that I'm trying to be, like a goody two shoes or whatever. It's just the fact that after everything we have been through, we don't trust a soul.
That's okay. Oh, I don't blame you. I will put my contact information, which would be the dismantlingfamilycourtcorruption.com website. And I'd like to have you both back on again in the future for more updates. And I'm so grateful for your time so that we can learn from you and your case.
Are you sure? Yeah. Okay. Are you sure? Are you sure? Because last time you said you took over the conversation. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, hey, are you want to add anything else or?
No, he says
Okay.
he's good. He said what he needed to say. So
Well,
anything else? Is there any positive you want to spread for the rest of the families?
I will just say this. I pray for all the families who are currently going through this, and together we will beat this monster. Just stay strong, keep praying, and it'll all come through.
Anything for the dads?
mm-hmm.
For the dad, same thing. Your families are counting on you. You can't give up.
Mm-mm.
We don't have the ability to give up. If you love your wife, you love your children, keep fighting.
Well, and I also wanted to reach out to the dads myself and say, I know that society has stigmatized you. I know that, you guys are viewed as toxic, and you guys crying out for help is viewed as weakness and toxic masculinity. You have at least these two people right here who support you and who care about you and who want to hear what you're feeling. I'm sorry that for those fathers that are being so aggressively railroaded in the courts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry for those fathers who have been taken a ride by their, ex-wives and people with a vendetta. I'm sorry that's happening to you, but you are not alone. And if you ever need anybody to talk to, I'm sure Marianne can get you in contact with us. And trust me, my husband understands how you're feeling. And we're here for you and we support you.
Thank you so much. Don't jump off. Slam the Gavel is a podcast to help the public understand what really goes on in these family courtrooms. I'm your host, Marianne Petrie, author of Dismantling Family Court Corruption, Why Taking the Kids Was Not Enough, and Cry Out for Justice, Poems of Truth. Please join us again here with Patriot Mom and Patriot Dad in the future and other guests. Thank you so very much for telling us what's going on.
Thank you for having us again, Marianne.
Definitely.